Strategic brand positioning involves the deliberate, analytical act of claiming a specific, defensible set of coordinates inside a consumer's mind. Many firms struggle with this because they adopt a narrow industry view, defining their competition only by looking at direct, identical product substitutes. It's one brand of detergent against another. So strategists instead use a market view. This approach identifies competitors based on the core underlying need the consumer is trying to satisfy, regardless of the product's physical form. Relying solely on the industry frame creates severe strategic blind spots. For years, Coca-Cola focused heavily on its soft drink rivals, failing to account for the rise of premium coffee bars and fresh juice that eventually satisfied the same consumer need for a daytime refreshment. Before any positioning strategy can begin, an organization must accurately define its true competitive frame of reference to understand the actual boundaries of the market. Within that frame, capturing market share requires managing two opposing strategic vectors: points of difference and points of parity. Points of difference are the unique, highly desirable attributes a company can actually deliver. These are the offensive tools that pull a consumer away from a competitor. Points of parity act as the critical counterbalance. These attributes are shared across the industry and are necessary to establish baseline legitimacy. A travel agency, for example, cannot function without the ability to book a flight or a hotel. When Visa wanted to attack American Express, they addressed a historical point of difference: exclusive prestige. Visa neutralized this advantage by creating a point of parity, rolling out their own gold and platinum tiers to match the status Amex had previously monopolized. Optimal positioning requires fighting on both fronts, maximizing unique differences to drive consumer preference, while strategically using parity to blunt the strengths of major competitors. To visualize these abstract consumer feelings, marketers use a perceptual map. By defining an x-axis, such as traditional versus contemporary image, and a y-axis for flavor intensity, we can plot the current state of the market. By plotting survey data, we can place the existing competitors, brands B, C, and D, onto the grid, identifying their perceived strengths and weaknesses. We then layer on consumer target segments. These ideal points represent where buyer demand is most concentrated. The physical distance between the brand nodes and these ideal points represents the gap between current offerings and consumer desires. In this example, a gap exists at segment 1. These consumers want a contemporary image paired with a light flavor, but no current brand sits directly in that space. Brand A sits just outside the segment's optimal range. By layering preference data over brand perceptions, the map reveals specific geometric gaps where consumer demand exists without a current brand to satisfy it. To capture segment 1, brand A must move. It can adjust its trajectory along two potential vectors to intercept the target demographic's ideal coordinates. Executing movement along these vectors requires the company to manipulate specific consumer associations by adjusting points of parity and points of difference. This introduces the challenge of correlational points of parity. Many attributes are inversely related in the consumer's mind. For instance, strengthening a brand's taste profile can often lead consumers to assume the product is less healthy. Competitive points of parity are used to address these perceptions. These are targeted adjustments designed to match the strengths of adjacent competitors, holding the line on one attribute so the brand can advance on another. Repositioning is a resource allocation problem. It requires adjusting operational realities, such as product design or pricing, to shift a brand's perceived coordinates to meet consumer demand. Some firms execute a straddle position, where they attempt to occupy two separate competitive frames of reference at the same time. Historically, the automotive industry faced a strong negative correlation. Consumers largely believed that luxury cars lacked performance, and high-performance cars lacked luxury. When BMW entered the U.S. market, they targeted this exact correlation with a combined positioning strategy. Against U.S. luxury cars, BMW established a point of parity on build quality while using a point of difference on performance to win. Simultaneously, they mirrored the strategy against U.S. performance cars. They established parity on speed and handling while using their luxury status as the differentiator. By meeting the baseline standards of one category and using them as the unique differentiators in another, a brand can create a new, highly profitable umbrella category. An optimal market position requires a firm to have an internal architecture that ensures consistent execution across all departments. Strategists use the brand bullseye to align the entire organization around a single strategy. The middle ring holds substantiators, factual proofs supporting the brand's claims, like mandatory staff training. Moving inward, points of parity and points of difference define exactly which attributes drive consumer preference. The bullseye serves as a central reference point, allowing managers to verify that downstream tactical decisions align with the brand's original strategic requirements. At the absolute center of the organization sits the brand mantra. This is a strict 3 to 5 word filter that captures the brand's essence and dictates what the brand must avoid. Nike's mantra, authentic athletic performance, has historically guided the firm to reject lucrative opportunities in casual footwear. If a product does not genuinely benefit a competing athlete, it fails to meet the internal standard. In the late 1980s, Disney faced pressure to capitalize on their characters through broad licensing. Their internal mantra, fun family entertainment, forced leadership to reject profitable deals that threatened to dilute their core market position. Rigorous brand positioning requires a disciplined feedback loop, quantifying the external market to identify opportunities and ruthlessly policing the internal organization with a central mantra to maintain that advantage.